Hello and welcome to this session, and in this session we shall continue our understanding of the different types of nouns. Well, in this session particularly, what I would be focusing are on the next two types of nouns, that are the concrete and the abstract nouns. In this session, we shall understand as to what really is the difference between the concrete and the abstract nouns and where we actually use them in our English sentences. So, let me proceed. Even before I tell you as to what really are the concrete and the abstract nouns, have a look at this sentence. The dogs barked loudly. Well, this is a valid English sentence, and obviously in this sentence the word dogs is what we categorize as noun. Well, obviously we are not referring to any specific dog, and hence we may also call this as the common noun, but then what I want you to understand is that it also happens to be a concrete noun. Now, why am I calling dogs as a concrete noun? Well, that's basically because, after all, it's a physical entity. You can perceive it through your 5 sense organs. Obviously, you can see it, you can smell it, you can touch it. So that way, your sense organs help in perceiving this physical entity, and hence we categorize dogs not just as the common noun, but also as the concrete noun. Well, this session being on the concrete noun and the abstract nouns, what I now want you to be introduced to is the abstract nouns, and hence have a look at this sentence. His bravery was commendable. Well, here the word bravery is again categorized as a noun, but then obviously we cannot categorize it as a concrete noun because bravery definitely is not a physical entity. Also, bravery is something that cannot be perceived by the sense organs. In fact, it is an abstract concept or an abstract idea which indicates that the person indeed has that quality of braveness, and hence bravery is categorized as the abstract noun in English. So, I am sure that through these two sentences, you have broadly been able to understand the fact that concrete nouns happen to be such nouns that have a physical existence, whereas the abstract nouns happen to be such nouns that do not have a physical existence. Well, that way, all of these words in English is what we categorize as the concrete nouns. Well, that way, there are quite a lot of words, but then I have listed a few words here for your reference, and I'm sure you realize that all of these words represent such objects which are tangible and which are perceivable by our 5 sense organs. But then, in contrast, have a look at these words. Obviously, all of these words indicate abstract ideas and thoughts, and hence we categorize them under the abstract noun category. Obviously, they are abstract because they are non-physical in nature, and obviously we cannot be perceiving them through our 5 sense organs. All said and done, I am sure that you have got a broad idea of what really are the concrete nouns and the abstract nouns, but then let me give you the formal definitions of both of them. Concrete nouns happen to be such nouns in English that refer to tangible or the concrete physical objects. But that way, abstract nouns refer to intangible concepts, intangible ideas, emotions, and qualities. Well, that way, concrete nouns happen to be such nouns that can be perceived through our 5 sense organs, but then abstract nouns cannot be perceived through the 5 sense organs. Well, I'm sure at a macro level you have already understood this definition, but then when I'm going to give you a few more examples, I'm sure all of this would become completely clear to you. So, let me proceed. Now, have a look at this sentence. She picked up a rock. Well, I'm sure that in this sentence you realize that rock happens to be the noun, but then since it is tangible and since we can hold it, touch it, hence we definitely can categorize it as the concrete noun. But then have a look at this sentence. She has great intelligence. Well, in this sentence, intelligence happens to be the noun, but then intelligence is something that cannot be touched, that cannot be smelt, that cannot be tasted. Obviously, you cannot see it. In other words, what I mean to say is that it is not tangible to all of our five sense organs, and hence intelligence is categorized as the abstract noun here. I hope you have been able to understand this. Anyway, have a look at this one last example. The book is on the table. Obviously here, book happens to be the noun, and it is needless for me to say that it is the concrete noun because it is a tangible or a physical entity. But then have a look at this sentence. He thought about peace. Obviously, peace is the noun here, but then peace is an abstract concept wherein there is not much of a disturbance and there is tranquility in the societies. But then this is something that cannot be perceived through the five sense organs, and hence is categorized as an abstract noun. So I'm sure that now when you would look back at the definition of the abstract nouns, that you are now able to understand both of these points. But then there is one more difference between the concrete and the abstract nouns, that the concrete nouns can be in both the singular and the plural forms, but then the abstract nouns can be only in the singular form. They cannot be in the plural form. Well, what does all of this mean? Let me explain it through a few examples. Have a look at this sentence. The dog barked loudly. Well, this happens to be a valid English sentence, and in this sentence, dog happens to be the noun. But then you know that since a dog is tangible and can be perceived by our sense organs, that we can also categorize it as the concrete noun. But then what I would wish to add upon is that it is not just a concrete noun, it happens to be a singular concrete noun, because after all we are referring to a single dog in this sentence. But then just in case I happen to rewrite the sentence like this. The dogs barked loudly. Well, here again, dogs happens to be concrete noun, but then it is not a singular concrete noun because you are referring to more dogs, and hence we call this as the plural concrete noun. Well, both of these sentences definitely are valid in English, which only goes to show that the concrete nouns can be both in the singular as well as in the plural form. But then have a look at this sentence. His bravery was commendable. Well, here the word bravery happens to be the abstract noun because it cannot be perceived through our five sense organs, but then it happens to be a singular abstract noun. Here what we are speaking is about the bravery of a person, and hence it is a singular abstract noun. But then just in case I happen to rewrite the sentence like this, that his braveries was commendable. Well, here let me tell you that this sentence itself is invalid only because there is no word called braveries in the vocabulary of English. What I mean to say is that bravery happens to be an abstract noun, and you cannot have the abstract noun in the plural form like this. This is invalid word, and hence the sentence itself is invalid. So all said and done, I am sure that through this example you have definitely understood that the concrete nouns can be in both the singular as well as the plural form, whereas the abstract noun can only be in the singular form and the plural format does not exist. I hope this point is now clear to you, but then let me give you one more example to again substantiate this for you. Have a look at this sentence. The book is on the table. Well, in this sentence, book happens to be the concrete noun because it is tangible, no doubt, but then it is a singular concrete noun because after all we are speaking about just one book in the sentence. But then in case I happen to write it like this, that the books are on the table, then obviously here the word books is no doubt concrete noun, but then it happens to be a plural concrete noun because obviously we are referring to more than one book in this sentence. But then both of these sentences happen to be valid English sentences because concrete nouns can exist in both the singular as well as the plural form. But then have a look at this sentence. She has great intelligence. Well, here intelligence no doubt happens to be an abstract noun, but then it is a singular abstract noun. But then if in case the same sentence I express it like this, that she has great intelligences. What I really want to highlight to you is that this sentence itself is an invalid sentence. And why is it so? That is because the vocabulary of the English language does not contain a word called intelligences. This word does not exist in English, and hence this sentence itself is invalid. What I mean to say is that in case you try to pluralize the abstract noun, then it is invalid. So again, I am sure that through this example, you have been able to understand that concrete nouns can exist in both singular and the plural forms, but then the abstract nouns can exist only in the singular form and not in the plural form. And hence, I am sure through this, you have been able to understand everything that you need to know about the concrete and the abstract nouns. I'm sure that through this video, you have got the required insights into the concrete and the abstract nouns, and I'm sure that you are now interested in knowing more details about the remaining types of nouns. Yes, I shall in detail explain all of the remaining types of nouns, and for all of that, what you really need to do is attend my next session. Thanks for watching this session. I'm ending this session with a table for you that differentiates between the concrete and the abstract nouns. Hope this shall summarize today's session and meet you in my next session. Thanks for watching.